Mr. Soros, just 2 weeks ago, you said that actually we should be much more careful.
Yeah. Well, 2008, we are repeating it. It was a time of a financial crisis and a bear market. And you have the same condition today. But the source of the disequilibrium is different. In 2008, the root cause was the subprime crisis in America. Now the root cause is basically China. So it's not comparable.
China because growth is much below what we think, or because they're importing deflation if they devalue the yuan?
It's deflation and over-indebtedness of the Chinese economy. The total social debt is down 300%, and maybe actually it might be up to 350 if you take into account the external debt. So it's serious, and the Chinese left it too long to address the changeover in the growth model that they have to adopt from, investment and export-led to domestic-led. So a hard landing is practically unavoidable.
So you're looking at a financial crisis that would start in China when authorities also couldn't deal with it?
Well, it's one of they're basically, the key issue is deflation. Now, you don't, it's a condition that we are not used to. None of us have lived in a deflationary environment. The last time we had that is in the 1930s. And while I was around, I was not yet engaged in the markets. We just don't know how to handle it. It's a different environment. But now we have to face it.
But on China, do you expect actually a hard landing?
Well, it has happened. I'm not expecting it. I'm just observing it. But China can manage it. It's got resources. It has a greater latitude in choosing policies than most other countries, because it has over 3 trillion of reserves and so on. However, they have a way of inflicting their problem, passing it on to the rest of the world. So they can handle it even if they don't get the transition right. They can certainly continue for 2-3 years on the wrong course. But the effect on the rest of the world, and that is actually mainly deflation. It's one of the sources of deflation. You've got basically 3 major root causes. One is China, the other one is oil and raw material prices, and the third is competitive devaluation, or beggar thy neighbor policies. And you have all 3.
How would you play the market in this kind of environment? What do you buy?
Yeah, well, I am no longer, in the markets. I don't know the details. I've become the Isaiah Berlin's hedgehog. One big idea. The one big idea is deflation, and therefore Since I don't know the market, I shorted S&Ps, I shorted raw material producing countries and Asian countries' currencies against the dollar, and I went long U.S. government bonds.
What's the hard landing? Are we talking about years of lower than typical growth? Are we talking about a full-on crisis where you have banks collapsing and being...
Look, the big difference between America and China is that basically the major banks are all state-owned. So the banks may accumulate non-NPL, but they can operate because the central bank will continue to finance them. So this is what's happening. So the amount of debt outstanding has risen last year by, I think, 17 or 19%. And the growth was, actually, the GDP grew, I don't know, officially 6.9%, but if you look at the real numbers, it's about 3.5%. So 1% of growth requires 7 times or six times the amount of debt that has to be issued. And that's why the debt is growing at a multiple of the GDP. And that's why the total debt is now over 300 billion.
I think we have time for...
Trillion, I mean, whatever. 300%, sorry.